and it all depends on how the rest of the pieces fall in place. Like, I think you know what to expect of Coyle and Frederic together with JVR. I think it's all going to depend on whether or not Poitras can stick, which he looks like he can, and whether he can drive play with guys like DeBrusk and Geekie. Because if you have a guy, a 19-year-old who's holding his own, and you're bringing two established NHL players along with him in a whatever you want to put. Like, I feel like the Coyle and Poitras line can be interchangeable as to who's the second or third line, but you've got three lines with a lot of high-end talent there, but it's still not going to be nearly as seamless as it was last year in terms of offensive generation.
Poke the Bear is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 172, presented by our good friends over at FanDuel. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Usually, obviously, you and I do a Poke the Bear now at the end of the week, but this week we're switching things up a bit. Poke the Bear at the beginning of the week. And I know you and I did a Bruins beat yesterday on Monday, but we're going to do some bigger picture things.
Yeah, keeping it rolling.
We're keeping it rolling. The bigger picture stuff, because obviously tonight, Tuesday, the Bruins take on the Blackhawks to end this road trip, and I saw somewhere on Twitter that the Bruins are flying home after the Chicago game, getting in at 3 a.m., and then they play Thursday. So, oof, that is a rough travel schedule. Yeah, nothing like a little red-eye flight and arriving at 3 in the morning. Hopefully some stuff is open at the airport for them, you know? Grab a quick bite in the morning. Dunk's has got to be open, right? At 3 a.m., obviously.
As long as they don't go to Wahlburgers, right? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, Wahlburgers at 3 a.m. I imagine that would hit as bad as you think it would.
Yes.
Anyways, you and I are all about surprises. So to start, we're going to talk what are the top surprises for the Bruins this year. The storylines, the players, maybe the team itself that has surprised the most. So, Connor, I will let you go first. What is your biggest surprise so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll start with the obvious one, right, which is Matthew Poitras, who, again, I think expectations maybe were high on him after a really strong preseason, but it's one thing to do it in the preseason when maybe half or a quarter of the roster is a bunch of other guys in the AHL or other younger prospects. It's another thing to do it against a full NHL roster, and especially night in and night out. As you said, with the schedule the Bruins have, like, it's a lot, especially for even a younger player, even maybe someone who played, 70, 80 games in the OHL. That being said, you're not playing against NHL competition. You're going from one spot in Ontario to the other, or what have one spot in Quebec to the other. Different thing entirely when it's night in and night out across the U.S. and Canada. So I think it's only fair to expect, and I think it's what we talked about with Poitras all year long, even before he took off in the preseason, like, set reasonable expectations. But as we said, I think on our last taping of Bruins Beat, every time Poitras gets put in a spot where he's either challenged or it seems like he's hit a wall, he bursts right through it. He's like the Kool-Aid man. Trudges right through it, proves a lot of people wrong, makes a mess.
Just
drywall in the fruit punch. No one can drink it now. Keeps on doing it. A real menace out there. So I think that's one that definitely stands out for me at least, and it's got to be the obvious one. And it's a great surprise for the Bruins to have because it changes. I don't know if it changes the whole complexion of the season or your projections, but what a guy like him can provide in terms of being a guy that is driving play right now. I mean, he's tied with Pastrnak for the most high danger chances at 5-on-5 play. Like, he's already proving to be a difference maker in the early going, at least. And if he's in that spot, not only are you the Bruins boosted by the fact that you have a potential, top six, middle six guy for the future, but he's impacting the game right now. And that domino effect of where he can slot other guys is monumental for this team because, talk about things that haven't been surprises. Defense, goaltending have been great. The biggest question mark has been, what are you going to get up front? And Poitras, driving play in that middle six spot out of the gate has been a godsend for them so far.
Yeah, maybe this whole time, you and I have been, some people have been saying Bergeron, some have said Krejci, you've said Braden Point. Maybe he's just the freaking Kool-Aid man.
He's the Kool-Aid man.
That's it. It's that simple. He's just the Kool-Aid man, which I guess I can get on board with that. The Kool-Aid man always was going to be the number one center of the future for the Bruins. It's interesting because I think since, include training camp, Poitras's been the biggest surprise anywhere with the Bruins. Like, I don't think anything comes close. But has he surprised you as much since the start of the regular season? Because it's funny, like, obviously there was that game against San Jose that was, sort of forgettable for him. Built on a little against the Kings. Gets an assist against Chicago, and has been impactful. But has he been I still think it's been surprising. I still think you even look at like the Anaheim game. It's a back-to-back, a third game in California. Like, that'd be an easy one to kind of just, Sunday night game in Anaheim. Like,
got in and out burger waiting for us afterwards,
Exactly.
Didn't look like it when he played though, right? Guy was
No, it didn't.
Danger ice. Like, he's doing all these little things that maybe you take for granted or you don't stand out. Because I think the playmaking poise, all those things, is what his ability to avoid contact, avoid getting really smashed into the boards is impressive, and it's noticeable even to someone who's maybe not watching a lot of hockey or not watching a lot of his game. But it's the other stuff that he can't teach, right? Like how he is, skating without the puck. I think it was Jack Hahn did a thing. He does a really good job of doing some breakdowns and analytics about how, like, he reminds him of Bergeron. Again, the comparisons are coming there. I think he's building some momentum, but of just how good he is without the puck on his stick, of just making reads, putting himself in spots, disrupting the other team's breakout, and then just like his willingness to get into grade A ice. He's not the biggest guy, but he just does those little things, whether it's planting himself down low. Instead of maybe cutting to the outside for a pass, he's cutting inside and kind of causing the defense to collapse on himself. Like, he's just doing these little things that, even if it's not leading to a goal or even a high danger chance, you keep it up. You do it shift after shift, and good things are going to happen. I think that's what's really impressed me about him so far is, listen, 19, he's got to put on a lot more weight. We all know these things. Every younger player has that. Not every young player has that instinct to drive to the net in those spots.
And to consistently do the little things right. You can score goals and you can get some assists here and there, but not be a high IQ player. I mean, that really is what separates top six guys from bottom six guys. And, I think if there were games that the little things didn't shine through with Poitras, I think people, whatever. But he's done it pretty much every game. And I think, 3 points in 5 games, just look past the points. The points are fine. There are guys on the team that have much lower bits of production, which we'll get to in a bit. But again, I think it's that attention to detail that works with him. And I know it's not always the most interesting thing to talk about. People want to talk about goals and assists and points and highlight reel goals. And I get it, right? That's what's more fun. I understand that. But for a top six center of the future, for a guy that you hope can step into the roles of a Bergeron and a Krejci and be that way for the next 10 to 11 to 12 years, maybe, you need him to be doing those little things right. And to be a Bruins center on this Bruins team with their culture and everything, that's what you need. And so far, that's what you've gotten. No guarantee it continues. No guarantee it lasts forever. But if a 19-year-old is doing these types of things, as you said, cutting to the net, just doing those little things right, it's a very good sign. Because usually those guys don't just, get dumber. It's not like they just stop doing those things. It's the guys that don't have those things at that age. And the Bruins have had plenty of those kinds of prospects. So, yes, Poitras's been a surprise for sure. I will say there's two I'm between. I'll start with Morgan Geekie. Yeah. Surprising guy. I know last time we spoke about him, I kind of was like, I'm not fully in the Geek squad yet. And it remains to be seen if he's a long-term answer there in the top six. But so far, I've liked his production. I like his ability, what he does for Poitras and the defensive zone and kind of helping him out. And kind of he's a bigger body, slower, obviously, but still finds his way to grade A ice. So I've liked Geekie so far. I've liked what you gotten out of him. Got his first goal the other night. He's assisted on some plays. He's, created plays. So, am I blown away like with Poitras? No, but I would put that as a surprise so far of, hey, he's produced. He looked good with Frederick. Like, I don't know. I think you were onto something over the summer with that. You were the first one that I saw
Geek
on
squad,
it.
baby.
Big brain stuff saying, hey, look, I think this guy's got potentially a lot more to give. What have you thought of him?
Yeah, I think he's been really solid. Again, he's not the flashiest guy. And as you said, like, I think you look at just how he produced last year, averaging, what was it, less than 11 minutes a game. Like, there's room for him to grow. Again, not to say that this is a guy that is going to have a Zacha-like rise, right, and being like a 30-point guy to a 55-point guy. But if he can give you 40 points, and I think you see in his game, like his motor is really good. He's 6'3", not like the most imposing guy, but like almost kind of like a guy like Beecher. When you're that size and you can move that well, you have that motor, you can close in on guys, make things happen. He's doing just a lot of the little things that I think he's becoming more of a trusted guy for Jim Montgomery. I think the last game against Anaheim, I think he had just a hair under 19 minutes of ice time. Like, again, like he's maybe not a top six fixture, but he can be a very, very important middle six guy for your team. And if he's sticking with Poitras, like it's the best of both worlds for the Bruins, right? Where you have Poitras, having a reliable teammate to build some chemistry with, but you're also getting a guy that you view as someone that can give more and help out your 5-on-5 offense, getting him into a role as well. I think the Bruins are outscored teams 4-1 in Poitras and Geekie's ice time together. It's almost 60 minutes now. So, so far, so good for what you've seen from those guys. And again, I'm not expecting Poitras to be a top six stalwart. I don't know, he skated with Marchand one of these games. I don't know if he's a top six or a top line guy, but if you're looking for a guy that has more room to grow and you have him signed to a really affordable deal this year and next, there's a lot to like about what you've seen from him so far.
Do you mean Geekie or Poitras?
Geekie.
Oh, you said Poitras. And I was like, you don't think Poitras a top six guy? I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, I was like, wait, did I miss something? Geekie, again, just has worked out. I mean, it's clearly a good value signing. I think that's been a good thing. What's another surprise from you?
I'm going to go with Frederic. I think we've talked about this before, that we've been, curious about what like his ceiling is. He had a really strong year last year, breakout year. Was that a sign of things to come, or what more can he provide? And I think so far he's kind of answered that call. Again, we mentioned this before. Please keep Charlie Coyle and Trent Frederic together, because I don't know what it is. Those guys are fantastic playing on a line together. And it's just every time Frederic's out there, he's impacting the game. Like, I think he's found his identity. He doesn't need to be this fourth line scrapper or anything like that. Like, if he can just play his game, play a simplified style of play, he can do like a lot of things really well. That, again, it's almost like a guy like Charlie Coyle. Like, he may not be racking up points, but he makes those small winning. He's like Marcus Smart. He makes those small winning plays that can contribute to a win, whether it's winning a puck down low. His shot's underrated, really good at tipping pucks, knocking in rebounds. Obviously has that physicality. He dropped the gloves on Saturday against the Kings. Great mic'd up moment too. Guy's an absolute lunatic fighting guys.
Who was the Kings defenseman going for? Was he going for Van Riemsdyk?
I don't remember exactly who exactly it was that the guy was going after, but again, typical Frederic of asking for the fight and delivering a couple of heavy hooks there for him. So.
And the Bruins behind the B staff, like yes. Michael Penhollow, they're like yes, but they're also like, please don't punch the mic, please don't let a punch hit the mic.
Yes, but yeah, I think you just look at what Frederic can provide, and this is, I think, what the Bruins envision when they're being so patient with him, is that his skill set is something that if he hit at the NHL level, a lot of teams covet, in terms of being a guy that can give you 15 to 20 goals with that physicality, with a really strong two-way game. And it seems like every single time he's just been out there on the ice so far this season, he's making impactful plays. So I think that's a guy that if he can stay in that spot on the third line, him and Coyle, you're in the kind of the same spot you were last year, where you have a really strong two-way third line that can really take advantage of whatever matchups they get.
And I think it even goes back to like right now with Coyle and Poitras on the second and third, centering the second and third lines. It feels like they're interchangeable, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not. I don't think there's a clear second or third line. I mean, even the Bruins tweeted out the rushes today, and the Coyle line with Frederic and Van Riemsdyk was second. One little surprise, I'll go with Van Riemsdyk. Yeah. 3 goals in 5 games. I know goals have been sort of hard to come by. I think are all of those are power play goals, right? If I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm forgetting one or something, but I just think in front of the net, he's provided something for you on the power play, which is not really a surprise. We sort of expected it, but it's worked out. He's converting on those chances. I think that's something. Another thing, do you have more surprises? Because I have one more.
You can go for another one, please.
I'll go for one more. I'll say Ullmark and Swayman. And I know people are like, what? But to pick up where they left off last year, pretty much just like, boom, right to the next year. And then Ullmark is at the level he's at. Now, again, they have not played the greatest of teams, right? We all agree. This is, 5-0 against teams that are in the bottom half of the league, except for the Kings. The Kings are a good team. They're going to be in the playoffs most likely come next spring. But, I mean, just stylistically, they look good. They look good. I was a little shaky about Ullmark against the Blackhawks in Game 1, but since then, he's been good, and Swayman's been terrific. So I just think the fact that they've completely picked up where they left off, start this year on a high note, I was worried, and I guess I still kind of am, of a regression of Ullmark, but, I mean, through 5 games, there hasn't been yet, so can't hate that. Can't hate that at all. Anyways, Connor, before we get to the rest of our show, a quick word from our sponsor.
Into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
So, Connor, I have a funny story. Tuesday night, big night, Frozen Frenzy on ESPN, the red zone style. It's all 32 teams are in action, right? It's just like mayhem. I'm curious to see how
flashes.
it goes.
We're all going to be just like looking at all the different pucks. They need like the little the flashing puck from the infamous flashing puck from yesteryear. Just keep track of all different games going on at once.
You have to. One of my friends texted me, or one of my roommates texted me and said 21 bets tonight for Frozen Frenzy. Wish me luck. I'm like, 21? It's incredible. I mean, that is, and he's using FanDuel. He's using FanDuel, so that's what matters most.
Exactly.
Thankfully. But I'm curious to see how this Frozen Frenzy goes. But also, like, I want to watch the Bruins.
Yes.
Like I can't. The 2 TV screens, like when the Patriots come on, we turn Red Zone off. Because oftentimes Red Zone will be ahead of like our Xfinity.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't want to have to like go between the TVs. But I'm curious to see how the Frozen Frenzy goes. Our next thing. So we did surprises on one end. That's kind of a positive thing. On the negative end of things, because, we like to keep things balanced around here. You got to have a little positive, got a little negative, a little salt, a little pepper. Who needs to give more? Who has more to give so far? Who's your first pick?
I'm going to go more of like a sweeping overall thing, but I'm going to say the offensive generation from the defensemen.
That's a good one.
I think you look at it. I mean, 0 goals so far. Not to say that they need to be the Hurricanes, where it feels like all those, like 4 out of their 6 starting D all have like 10 to 12 goals. Like, I don't think you're expecting that. But again, we're talking about a defense that still leads the league in goals against. Like, they're doing their job in terms of what their primary focus is, but I think Jim Montgomery stressed it time and time again that his team to consistently generate offense, you're going to need a lot of it to come from the blue line, whether it's shots, pushing the puck out. And I think they've done a good job of limiting how much time is spent in their own end and, feeding the puck up to their forwards. But I'd like to see just maybe a little bit more aggressiveness, or maybe just a more shot-ready approach, I would say. Maybe aggressiveness is not good because it feels like a few of their goals against have been the result of maybe jumping up into the play and that being kind of blowing up in their face, which happens. You'll take that if you've got a really good goaltending and defense behind you. But maybe a bit more shot selection you like to see, because, again, you've got guys like McAvoy and Lindholm and Grzelcyk and a few other players and even Shattenkirk, who are really good at getting pucks on net and generating chances there. So as the Bruins try to find more consistent 5-on-5 production, having a few pucks in from the blue line that can lead to rebounds, second chances, tips, all those things, I think can kind of go a long way. So that's one thing I think need a little bit more of from that unit as a whole is 5-on-5 production from the defenseman.
Yeah, I completely agree on that. It's interesting, like, you think back to last year and you had that stacked roster where I think those defensemen felt more free to jump into the rush, be the second and third guy on a rush. And I think this year it's just different, no Bergeron, no Krejci, no Hall, no Bertuzzi, even no Orlov. And I think I'm curious if that's kind of changed their mindset on jumping up into the play. I mean, I remember that Shattenkirk play, I think it was against the Predators, where he jumped in and they immediately scored after. You wonder what the impact of that is on kind of all those guys. But yeah, more offense from them. I will go Pavel Zacha. Pavel Zacha is, defensively has been outstanding. I think he's, as a two-way guy has been great. You just need the points to come. And, again, we'll get to kind of Marchand and Pastrnak staying together in a bit. But I think for the game Tuesday night, he's with Marchand and Pastrnak, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, again, the opportunity's there. We'll see if he takes it. But, I've liked his game away from just producing. I think he's been terrific in his own zone. He's been great at breaking up plays in the neutral zone. Something we talked a lot about this offseason of, like, the defense is great, but Bergeron was awesome at making sure that plays didn't get through the neutral zone into the defensive zone a lot of the time. And he's been great at that. And I think that's definitely something that has been added to his plate this year. So I understand a little bit of a lack of production, but at some point you do need to see points. And right now he's one assist through 5 games. So, I mean, again, I have confidence that he will be able to, because I think, when you're playing as well as he is away from the puck and in your own zone like that, the goals do come. Like, just the hockey gods are like, hey, you're doing the right thing in your own end. We're going to give you a goal and an assist tonight, But, yeah, production has to come at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So what's up next for you? Who do you have?
I don't have too many, because I think, obviously, I guess you're 5-0, but that helps out a little bit. Again, as of this recording, we'll see what they do in Chicago. I think the other one, maybe it's just in terms of just a bit more, is DeBrusk. Again, I think he had a really good bounce back game against Anaheim. Had that short-handed chance, has the primary assist on Poitras' second goal. Nice bounce back performance from him after what we've already discussed of his late arrival and those consequences there, but really curious to see how Poitras builds that chemistry with him, because if he can get rolling with someone like Poitras, there's a lot to like. And again, for this team, that a lot of intrigue in terms of their forward lines and combinations and maybe their ceiling as a whole, but you also just need tangible scoring, tangible production right now. And beyond Marchand and Pastrnak, probably your best bet at consistently doing that is a guy that, if he was healthy last year, was on pace for, I think, 36, 37 goals. So need a little bit more from him. Again, I think Sunday was a step in the right direction, but you hope he can continue to build off of that, because we know how much a guy like DeBrusk can really impact the game when he's on and driving to the net and impacting the game like that. So hope to see a little bit more of him moving forward after, a really encouraging performance against the Ducks.
I agree with you. I think, there's a lot more to give from him, especially just, putting the puck in the back of the net. So yeah, not a ton. Again, you're 5-0. There shouldn't be a lot from 5-0. Obviously, Pasternak's production, Marchand's production, no surprise there. And those two have been, over and above. I'll give one more. It just came to me. Marchand's penalties. That's one. That's just one little thing. Like, all right, let's, I thought last game, the hit from behind call that he got, or the cross check, was BS. I thought that was bogus, because he got hit from behind by Vakanainen right before. But just, cleaning up the penalties, small thing, nothing crazy. Speaking of Marchand, should him and Pastrnak stay together? This team needs more 5-on-5 offense. Those two certainly know how to do it. Should they stay together?
I think for right now, I kind of like how it's set up that way. And I think it all depends on how the rest of the pieces fall in place. Like, I think you know what to expect of Coyle and Frederick together with JVR. I think it's all going to depend on whether or not Poitras can stick, which he looks like he can, and whether he can drive play with guys like DeBrusk and Geekie. Because if you have a 19-year-old who's holding his own, and you're bringing two established NHL players along with him in a whatever you want to put. Like, I feel like the Coyle and Poitras line could be interchangeable as to who's the second or third line, but you've got three lines, a lot of high-end talent there, but it's still not going to be nearly as seamless as it was last year in terms of offensive generation. I mean, the Bruins had an abundance of riches last year with how they set up their forward core. You had Taylor Hall, Hart Trophy winner on the third line. Like, you had the luxury of splitting up Pastrnak with that usual, crew of him, Marchand, and Bergeron. This year, it's a little bit tougher. Like, you have to, I think, maybe put all your eggs in one basket, at least in the early going with those guys, to have kind of that dominant two-way line. And if you're able to get consistent scoring from that group while you let Poitras and Coyle sort their games out and get Zacha going, especially if you have Pastrnak with Marchand, I see the reason for doing it. Now, ask me in January how it looks, but I think right now out of the gate, while you're trying to see where these pieces kind of fall into place, I don't really have an issue with it. Again, you'd like to split up your top weapons to make it tougher for the opposition, but this isn't the same team as it was last year. You got to do what you have to do to get consistent scoring.
I think short term it's great because you do need that consistent 5-on-5 scoring. Long term, I think, for majority of games and things like that, I would like to see them kind of sprinkled through the rest of the lineup. Real quick before we go, does anything happen to Brandon Carlo on Tuesday night for that hit on Taylor Hall?
Based on what you hear from all the Blackhawks after that game, even a guy like Nick Foligno, they were not happy with it. Taylor Hall is now once again out with that shoulder injury. So definitely something worth monitoring. It's something where, again, bit of a tough hit for the Bruins that Milan Lucic isn't going to play in this game, because that seems like the ideal situation. That's not the reason why you bring him back, but it's a hell of a deterrent when you have him out there. So definitely something worth watching. This is, again, a young Blackhawks team that has a lot to prove. It's still anchored by a lot of veterans who I think try to hold themselves accountable. So could be a busy night for a Frederick or a Lauko or Beecher or what have you. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. Because, Blackhawks made it known from the top of the roster down, even to the head coach, that they were not happy with that hit. So we'll see kind of how that plays out.
And you really do not want Brandon Carlo fighting.
No.
With the concussion history, it is best to keep his gloves on. That is a terrible idea to let him defend himself there. So, curious to see what happens with that. But to keep up with everything, Connor, what can people look forward to from you over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe?
Yeah, we're going to have you covered throughout the season, whether it's game reports, features, columns, breakdowns, all that good stuff over at Boston.com. So you can read all of our stuff over there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That is Poke the Bear. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. You Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.